Oh, and by the way, it's the 14th of February. I'm not scaring you, I'm just telling you the date. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are watching this, you're probably wondering how you are going to be able to get 4 A stars in your A-levels. Yep, I did 4 A-levels. I kept all 4 all the way to the end. I did English literature, maths with stats, biology and chemistry. When I did my A-levels, the maximum grade you could have got was an A, but looking at the percentage for an A star, I was pretty much in the 90s. These tips can also work really well for GCSE students. Let's get right into it. Tip number 1, exam papers, mark schemes, exam papers, mark schemes, exam papers. I did so many exam papers during my revision time, like from now basically, all I was doing is mark papers. I could almost predict what the mark scheme would say for a question, and that's what point you want to get to. So even if you haven't done like loads of revision right now, go and do the exam papers for that topic. By doing loads of exam papers, not only was I learning as I was going, I was also identifying areas that I kind of felt a bit weak in, especially when it comes to answering a question. And lastly, I was kind of prepping myself and doing mock exams pretty much every single day. The second tip that I'd highly recommend is to do something every single day. The best thing to do is to give yourself small little goals. Today I'm going to sit a half an hour mock test on this topic. Today I'm going to complete this chapter. When I was trying to study for a small section, I didn't feel so overwhelmed. I didn't feel like I'm learning all of this information. I had kind of cut out everything else and I was just focusing on this small area, and it really helped me be more critical as well. So because I'm only focusing on this one chapter, it gives you a bit of an exam technique as well, because when you come to write about certain questions and certain topics, you need to be very analytical and critical about a specific topic. Tip number 3, I was super disciplined when it came to my phone. Really disciplined. There are some really good apps these days that monitor your phone usage, and there's one called Forest where it grows a tree for you. I don't know at what time scale it is, but a certain time scale, so if you don't use your phone for an hour, it grows a tree, and it keeps you kind of more mindful and more aware of the fact that you're picking up your phone. The technique that works for me is just to put my phone somewhere away from the room that I'm in. So if I was studying in my bedroom where my desk was, I would just put my phone either kind of in a different room, give it to my mum, put it downstairs, or even if I want to leave it in my room, just put it under my pillow somewhere and on silent. So somewhere that you don't hear any notifications, you can't see it, you cannot physically reach it. Give it to someone else, tell them not to give it to you for an hour or for 2 hours, and this means that you're distraction free and you can work smarter. The 4th tip that I can give you is to plan. Now, planning is not time wasted. You're more able to keep organized with what you're doing, and you know exactly what you're going to do today. It's not a matter of just, oh, I'm going to do some maths revision today, open the textbook, where should I start? Half an hour's gone. Oh, let me get a past paper, 1 hour's gone. Okay, I've done my revision now. What have you actually learned? Nothing. Spend 10 minutes thinking, what is my weakness? What topics do I feel like I need to go over? What homework do I have? What coursework do I have? What is it that's a priority for me right now? I had a diary, and I still do have diaries where I plan my whole day. I write to-do lists. I write down exactly what time I want to do things, what time I want to wake up, what time I want to go to sleep. You can link this into an exam technique, because planning is so important when it comes to writing essays, especially me, an English literature student. I used to have to write essays, of course, for my English literature exam, and knowing that I knew how to plan and I knew how to kind of organize my thoughts and I knew how to organize what I was about to write or what I was about to do was a technique that I actually took into the exam. Tip number 5 is to teach a friend, teach someone, teach a doll, teach a baby, teach anyone. Just teach someone the information you know. This reinforces your learning. Verbally saying something out loud, you are putting that information into what's going to become your long-term memory, because you're going to keep on repeating it and it becomes something that's more memorable. What's better, obviously, is teaching someone who's at the same level as you, so a peer who's in your class or someone who's in your year group, because then you can kind of test yourself and they can stop you if you make a mistake, whereas a teddy bear or a 5-year-old can't really stop you. I'd have my book and I would kind of act like I was a teacher. You know how teachers used to read upside down to you in primary school? It it worked. I remember a lot of this information till now. It really reinforced that information into my mind. Highly recommend it, highly recommend it. The sixth thing that I did was having something to look forward to. Booked a holiday to Canada, Toronto, and I think that was the first time that I went. No, it was the second time that I went to Toronto. I was super excited to go, and I didn't want results day to ruin my holiday and for me to be really depressed about results day. I think it's good to have incentives. You know, as humans, we want to have a prize at the end of it. The next tip that I recommend is to sleep early and to wake up early. This is something that I have always done. By being awake at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m, all your friends are probably going to be asleep until 8 or 9. So you have caught those hours that you know, people are usually asleep during, and you can work distraction free. Even if your phone is right next to you, you won't get a single message, you won't get a single text or anything, because no one is awake. I find that the work that I did between like 6 a.m. or even 5 a.m. till 9 or 10 a.m, those 4 or 5 hours were so much more efficient than any time that I did outside of like in the afternoon. Another thing that I did was to make my own notes. Now you can go online these days and buy notes, and you can buy these really nice textbooks, but none of these notes are going to suit you 100%. There are no two learners that learn in exactly the same way. So what I used to do is open the textbook, let's say it was biology, open the textbook, look at the way that they've written a process. So let's say they're talking about how water travels up the xylem in a plant. That information is probably so dense. There's 2 or 3 pages in the textbook, there's a diagram, really hard to pull out a few points. But what you can do is, so what I did was look at that information, try to make bullet points. So I'd make initial bullet points to show myself, okay, so the first thing that happened was that water diffuses from the leaves. Okay, so that's step 1. The next thing that happens is tension, the next thing that happens is this, and use the keywords and bullet point. And then you want to try to condense that into either a flashcard. I know flashcards aren't for everyone, but flashcards really worked for me. So write that onto a flashcard and write it as a method. So if you were to end up with a 5 marker or 6 marker, you've got that information there. You know how you've written it, you know how it's worded, and you know the exact key words that you need to write down in order to target the marks that have been written in the mark scheme. The next thing that I did was a lot of low-stake testing. Let's say, for example, you need to memorize all the amino acids and all the structures, right? What I did was I drew out all the amino acids, so the names on one side, and then at the back I drew the chemical structures of all the amino acids. So what I would do is I would have all the cards, and let's say one day I'm a little bit like I don't really want to study properly, but I still want to do something. I would grab a sheet of paper, like a plain sheet of paper, I'd pick out one of the amino acids from that card, I'd read it, and then I'd draw out the structure, and then I'd turn it around and just check. If I got it right, then I would put that into like the correct pile, and then I'd move on to the next one. I'd do the same thing. Sometimes what I would do is I'd look at the back, so I'd look at the structure first and try to remember what the name of the amino acid is. The last thing that I did, which is very important, especially if you're aiming for the top level 8, level 9, A star grades, knowing your weaknesses and being very brutal about it. So you need to identify a topic that you know you're weak at. To aim for those top grades, you need to be good at everything. So I'd go back and revise those topics again and again until I felt super confident with it. There's no point of looking over topics that you find easy. Yes, it gives you a nice confidence boost, and yes, from time to time, do it. But don't focus all your time on topics that you know you can do, topics that you know you feel confident in, and then later on struggle. And this is what always happens. The topics that you didn't want to come up will come up, and the topics that you really love won't come up. And that's just how life is. So do not let yourself down and do not regret it later on. And if you're aiming for A star and A, you cannot afford to lose those 5 markers, 6 markers, 7 markers, 8 markers. The way that I used to do this was go through the textbook and say, okay, how do I feel about this topic? Okay, I feel fine. Next. Identify topics that I feel weak at, and then allocate specific time to do that. Do not cram all the hard topics in 1 week, because then you're going to feel really demotivated and you won't feel good about yourself. But you know, one day do a hard topic, the next day maybe do one that you're okay with, then do a hard topic. So you're kind of changing it up a little bit. If you lose like 1 5 marker or 1 6 marker, it does really ruin your chances to get that A star or that A. So yeah, focus on your weaknesses, make sure that you're really... These are the exact tips that I implemented into my revision schedule and into my kind of discipline when I was revising for my A-level. Let me know if there are any other tips that you find helpful. And don't forget to give me a huge thumbs up and subscribe to see more from me. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!